my name's Corey Getz, and today I've got Garrett Scott here with me, and we are going to be talking about everything you need to know when you're dealing with an insurance roofing claim. You know, we're mainly going to focus on roofing claims because that's the most common type of insurance claim. And, hopefully we can give you a little bit of information. You know, we're constantly getting questions from homeowners about, do we have any damage? Should we file a claim? How does this process work when you're filing an insurance claim? And what should expectations be when you file a claim? Today, we aim to answer all those questions, and we'll probably cover even more. So glad to have you with us today. Looking forward to dig into this. We know that, me and Garrett have both dealt with quite a few homeowners, and we know that when you're filing an insurance claim, it can feel overwhelming. There are a lot of different feelings you can feel. There's uncertainty due to a lack of understanding or experience if you've never filed an insurance claim. And then there can be frustrations when you're trying to file an insurance claim, just trying to deal with insurance companies, which may not always feel like it's the easiest thing to do. There can just be the fear of not knowing what is that outcome that's going to happen, or maybe feeling the fear that you may not get what you need and deserve in your insurance claim. And, a lot of people are wondering well, what do I have to pay? Or how much is my deductible? Will my policy go up if I file a claim? These are all valid concerns that people have, homeowners, especially when they're trying to look at filing an insurance claim. So today we're going to look at addressing some of those concerns. We really believe part of it's our experience. We've done this so many times. It should not be that hard to file an insurance claim or deal with the process. This is something that happens on a daily basis all across the country. And when you have somebody with experience that we're going to share with you today, hopefully it puts you at ease and gives you that understanding that you need. So that way this doesn't seem overwhelming to you. So, just to tell you a little bit about my background, I've been working in this industry for 24 years. I first started working insurance claims back in Katrina in 2005. And then in 2006, I came here to Indianapolis. I'm from Northern Indiana originally, but I moved here to Indianapolis in 2006. There was a very large hailstorm back then. And in addition, my dad was an insurance agent for 25 years. So I have a lot of experience and wealth and knowledge when it comes to insurance claims. I've worked thousands of insurance claims. And then Garrett's been in the industry for over 10 years. He's seen the business from every angle. He has a ton of experience. He spends his day-to-day working on insurance claims for homeowners to help them get what they need and deserve. So he understands a lot of what we're going to talk about, everything that we're going to talk about. And so he's a great resource as we dig into the topic and talk more about what you need to know when you're dealing with an insurance claim. So maybe the first question I think we need to talk about here, Garrett, is why do you have insurance and what does it cover? Because I think that's always the biggest concern is we all know we have to have insurance, because we have a mortgage company that requires it, right? But why do people have insurance claims and what does it cover?
Yeah, that may seem like an obvious question, but a lot of times it does get brushed over. So there's multiple reasons why people have home insurance. One is, like you mentioned, if you have a mortgage on your house, a lot of mortgage companies will insist that you have insurance. Another reason is that most of the time, your home is probably one of the most significant investments in a lifetime. Most people, that's probably the biggest investment that they'll make. And it's important that you have coverage on that. It's a way to basically protect that investment. Then there's, insurance is beneficial to have in case of unforeseen events, acts of God, big storms that come through. These things are out of your control, and it's important to have insurance so that that investment is protected.
Absolutely. Yeah, and in central Indiana, like we have quite a bit of those acts of God or storms that come through. It's common for us to get hail. Earlier this year in 2005, we had some tornadoes come through central Indiana, which also produced hail and high winds. We had quite a few homeowners that had trees fall on their homes. I think those are common things where it's like, you don't have control over this. This is going to happen. So how do you protect yourself? And your insurance policy is that way, right? This is how we protect the home. So that way, if something major happens, then you've got coverage. It's just like health insurance, right? Like, you know, if you get cancer, you know, that can cost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And if you have insurance, it can help cover that cost, right?
Yeah. And I think you mentioned at the beginning that uncertainty plays a big role when it comes to insurance claiming homeowners. And I think it doesn't have to be that hard, right? But people have insurance for a reason, and it's to protect that investment. And it's important that you use that when the time is right. Yeah,
absolutely. And, you know, when it comes to insurance, there's lots of different policies. First off, you know, I think there's many different insurance companies out there. There are different coverage levels within those companies. Each company has different coverage levels. There's different deductibles. And, you know, one of the things we do want to express to homeowners watching this video is make sure you get with your insurance agent and that you understand what does your policy cover, what does your policy not cover, and what are your what's your deductible in the situation. I think it's just so common these days that homeowners now are even buying their insurance policies online. And, you know, I can't blame them. I mean, sometimes dealing with an insurance agent isn't the most enjoyable thing ever. I mean, they're good people. They have great intentions, nothing against them. But I think as we move into this society of a screen-focused society where everybody's looking at their phones, looking at the computers, looking at the iPads, people want to buy these policies online and they don't necessarily ever talk to an agent, and then they have no idea what does that policy cover, how much is their deductible, and we just want to say, like, you know, get with a licensed professional when it comes to insurance and make sure you know your policy, what's it covering, what's it's not, what's the deductible. I mean, how important do you think that is, Gary?
It's extremely important. So many times a homeowner will get in a situation where they think they need to file a claim. They end up filing a claim, and then they get stuck because they didn't truly understand what their policy was covering.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things I like to tell homeowners before they file a claim is, look, like in this system, there is, who did you buy your insurance policy from? What insurance policy did you get? And then what adjuster gets assigned? What mood that adjuster is the day he shows up to inspect your roof. And so, yeah, I mean, if you don't have a good policy, even if you have full loss, right? Your whole roof is damaged, it still may not have been worth filing that claim because maybe you have, which we'll talk about these a little more, maybe you have an ACV policy with a high deductible. All of a sudden your $10,000 roof, they're paying you $1,000. Was that really worth filing the claim? I don't know. The homeowner needs to decide that. But we hopefully will kind of give you some insight on that as we go through today. So one thing I think is important to talk about on that topic is, how is insurance changing currently? I think we're seeing a lot of changes. One of the reasons is just because we see more and more acts of gods or storms that are producing hail, high winds, and tornadoes come through central Indiana. And so over the last 10, 20 years, insurance claims have spiked, right? So there's more and more claims getting filed every year. And so, you know, I remember when I first started getting into this 20 years ago, it was common to see deductibles as low as like $250, $500 deductibles, right? And I don't see any of those anymore. And like now, I think more commonly, like, what are deductibles that you see when we're...
Yeah, I mean, well, deductibles can range. So anywhere a lot of times, insurance, first of all, insurance is always a changing environment.
Yeah.
So it's important to kind of stay up with that for as homeowners and as contractors on our end as well. But deductible could be a percentage of the value of your home. A lot of times, or even it's more common now that insurance companies are changing to a 1 or 2% of the value of your home as your deductible. And a lot of times that'll come out to $1,000 to $2,000, maybe $2,500 deductible.
Yeah. And like, that's important too, because like if you have a policy that's 10 years old and you haven't gotten with your agent to update what the value of your home is on your policy, and it says, well, your home is $200,000 on the policy, but now after we've seen home prices increase 50%, well, now your home may actually be worth $350,000,
right.
But the policy doesn't reflect that because you're holding on to that old policy for whatever reason, haven't gotten. So I really recommend not just getting with your insurance agent to make sure get with your insurance agent once a year. We did a podcast with Brett Slama with Slama and DeMoline Insurance. And he mentioned in there, like, a good agent, in his opinion, should be going through the policy once a year at the renewal stage to make sure that like things are getting updated. Because like you said, we're seeing these percentage of home values. I've seen some as much as 4%. I saw a deductible recently that was $10,000, and it's like, if you have a $20,000 roof and a $10,000 deductible, that's half the cost of the roof, So it's like, with hail being so common, I think it's good to understand, and it's your choice, right? Like whatever you want to have that be, that's totally up to you. Some people may have more financial safety nets in the background, so they want to pay a lower premium. But I think there's this balance in insurance policies where based off coverage and deductible is going to affect that policy premium. But again, you'll want to check with an insurance agent on that. Because it's like, can you afford the claim if it happens, right? Like if you got a $10,000 deductible, but you don't have $10,000 in the bank, how are you going to pay the deductible to get it done? And it just puts you in a spot where you're less likely to use the insurance. And I think that's the whole point of having the insurance is something like this happens, then you've got that safety net to cover your roof. Yeah. Because I think another thing, it's not just changing insurance, is the price of shingles and exterior home products has increased a great deal along with the inflation we've seen over the last 4 years since COVID. So, it's going to cost more and more to do these roofs. I talk to homeowners all the time, like, I replaced a roof 20 years ago and it was $5,000. Now I'm replacing my roof now, it's $20,000. How did these prices change so much? And I think inflation's, obviously the answer. Other things is ACV policies versus RCV policies. I think we talk about that a little bit later. We're going to talk about what the difference is in those policies. That can affect it. If you're not familiar with those terms, an ACV policy would be an actual cash value policy. So what is it worth today based off age and condition? And then RCV policy is what we like to think of as like a full replacement policy. Replacement cost value. They're going to cover the replacement cost or the full value of that. I've also been seeing with some insurance companies, some of the homeowners we deal with, that after the roof reaches a certain age, and we used to not see this with insurance companies, but when a roof reaches a certain age, it automatically switches to an ACV policy. What was happening is that insurance companies were getting tired of paying to have a roof replaced that needed to be replaced anyways, and then a hailstorm comes through. So the roof's 15, 20 years old. Average life of a roof currently is 17 to 18 years. So you got this 20-year-old roof. It's at the end of its life. Hailstorm comes in. It's more susceptible to damage, most likely going to be damaged with smaller hail. Right. And so the insurance companies are like, look, we're tired of paying homeowners to get a new roof when they needed to buy a new roof anyways. Yeah. And so now at 10 or 15 years, insurance companies are saying, look, your roof is 10, 15 years. we're not going to cover that roof, or we're going to move it to an ACV policy to help with that. And we are getting more and more calls at the office in the last couple of years from homeowners that are saying, I got a letter in the mail from my insurance company. I just had this happen with a friend of mine recently, Mike. And basically he said, look, like as of April of 2026, your roof is no longer covered under your policy because of the age of your roof. So they're kind of starting to force homeowners to incur that cost or sacrifice the coverage on the roof at that point. Yeah. Have you seen some of that happening out there as well?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it's becoming more common, unfortunately, but it is something that makes sense. I mean, if your roof needs replaced and then a hailstorm comes through, if you're the insurance company, you're going to be thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
So it is something to pay attention to.
Yeah, because I mean, like, think about from the insurance company side of view. If they're having to pay to have roofs replaced that should have already been replaced due to age and condition, then they've got to charge everybody more in their premiums because we all kick into this bigger pool that's got to get paid out. So if they're insuring roofs that are already needing replaced, then that money is going to come out of that pool and everybody's got to pay more money into that pool.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're like, it's not that they're bad people because of it. It's just that they're in business and they are trying to keep the rates as low as possible for everybody.
Yeah.
So another common question related to insurance that we see a lot, this question actually sometimes leads people to not want to file a claim.
Yeah. Which
is, if I file a claim, will my insurance rates or my insurance premiums increase? What are your thoughts on that, Garrett?
This is such a common response from homeowners, especially if they haven't been through an insurance claim or if this is their first time around. I'll talk to a homeowner and they'll say, I don't want to file a claim because I don't want my policy to go up. And that's not how it works. And I always try to inform them like, hey, when a storm happens, your insurance is going to increase based on your zip code, whether you file a claim or not. So it's always a good idea, if a storm does happen to get that inspected or to get your property inspected. That way, if your insurance is going to go up, wouldn't you want to use it? Right? I mean, if it's just a common misconception.
Yeah. And it goes back to that bigger idea that we just talked about, right? Like you get 100 people in one area to pay into a pool.
Right.
And that whole pool of houses gets damaged, but you don't want to file a claim because you're worried your insurance rate's going to go up. But everybody else around you is filing. All your neighbors are getting new roofs, other people that are covered in that pool. Well, they're going to have to increase what they're charging everybody to cover it because it's a pool of money covering it. It's similar to health insurance, right? And so
it'd be kind of like if you owned a timeshare and then you just never used it.
Yeah. 100%. Right? Yeah, you're going to pay anyways.
You're going to pay anyways. It's there for you to use. Like that's what it's meant for. And then you decide, I don't want my price to go up next year, so I'm not going to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So another common question that we get from homeowners is, how do I know if I have storm damage and should I file a claim? I think this is one of the most common when we get calls to the office. They start to see like their neighbor's got a new roof, or they know a storm came in and hail happened or high wind or a tornado happened. It's how do I know if I should file a claim? How do I even know if I have the storm damage that would be approved? Because I don't want to file a claim. I don't want to claim on my record with my insurance company if I don't have damage. So what are some ways that they can know if they have storm damage in the first place?
Yeah, and it's a good question. And another question would be is like, how do I know whether I should call a contractor out or not? And I think as a homeowner, there's a couple of things that you can do. If a big storm happens, take a walk around your property. Not all damages are things that you're going to be able to see or know to look for as a homeowner. However, sometimes there's going to be certain signs like missing shingles or missing siding pieces that had blown off your house, or maybe holes in your siding. If the hailstorm was significant enough, it may put holes in, vinyl siding. Or look at, the soft metals, your gutters and downspouts, anything that's aluminum, window wraps. If you see dings, round indentations on them, dents in your gutters, it's a sign. It doesn't mean that was caused by the storm, but it is a sign that you can, lead to the conclusion of, hey, I might need to have a contractor out here to look at this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, walking around the exterior is good. I think also walking around the interior, I think there's some homes, we're seeing this, we're seeing now that there are a lot of older generations, maybe in the baby boomer generations, Gen Xers, and they've become empty nesters in these rather large homes. And we don't see downsizing happening as much anymore because you sell your house and you got to move into a smaller house at the same price. So now there's these rooms in the house that they don't go into. Maybe it was their children's bedrooms or whatnot. And so I think another great place to look is just to look around the interior as well, because maybe you don't have the ability to get up on your roof. Maybe it's steep or tall or, just not safe for homeowners to get up on the roof. Here's a warning. If you're not comfortable and you don't know and you're unsure, don't get on your roof. It's a risky thing, For sure. You fall off, hurt yourself. So one thing you can do is just look around for leaks on the interior, look for staining on the ceiling, water coming in. Most commonly, these are going to happen around like skylights, penetrations, pipe boots, bathroom vents, different things like that will also give you that sign. What other areas do you think they might be able to inspect when they're looking for that?
It's good to get into your attic. If you don't want to get into your attic and not sure what to look for, obviously call a contractor out there to do that for you. They should be willing to get in your attic and do an inspection of that as well. But a lot of times, if you're having a leak occur, the first place you're going to see it is in the attic before it starts staining ceilings or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because otherwise it just starts to leak in and it'll absorb into your insulation in the attic space. And then it doesn't start to present itself until a period of time later. And I think one important thing to understand about that is with insurance claims, you only have a certain window based off your policy to file a claim. So if you're having a leak and it doesn't present itself, or you don't go in a room and you don't notice it, you may only have 1 to 2 years. Usually the max is going to be 2 years that you have to file that claim from the date of loss, which would be when the storm occurred. Right. So definitely, I agree. Getting in the attic, looking around, and if you're not able to do that, call a contractor. We get a lot of calls from homeowners asking us to come out and do inspections and check for the storm damage.
And I'll just add this in there too, that, if you don't have a leak, your property still could have been damaged by hail. And a lot of times that damage will take longer than that time period you have to file a claim to actually see damages occur from that. So that's also why it's kind of important to have it inspected after a storm before that 2-year time period or even a year time period passes, because the damages could come after that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have if you're not an expert in identifying storm damage, hail damage, wind damage, you should have an expert come out and do this for you, because it doesn't, I'll just tell you from experience, it doesn't look like what a normal homeowner may think that it looks like, which brings us kind of to the next point is one good way to know if you have storm damage and should you file a claim is to have your home inspected by a trusted contractor after any storm. I think a good question here that homeowners start to ask is well, what is a trusted contractor? And I think there's quite a few things that go into what is a trusted contractor. This list, I don't think necessarily 100% is the end all be all. But I think there's quite a few things. A good contractor is going to have good reviews. Yeah. Right. These days, you can't delete Google reviews. So going on to different platforms, especially Google, looking at those reviews. Are they reputable? Do they have any complaints with the Better Business Bureau? That is a very commonplace. We all know the Better Business Bureau. It is the watchdog of the industry. And what the Better Business Bureau has found is there are more complaints against contractors than anybody else.
Right.
Imagine that, right? Like if you haven't had a bad experience with a contractor, you probably know somebody who has had a bad experience with a contractor. So checking them on the Better Business Bureau is always a great idea. I think it's good, to choose a contractor that's been in business for 10 years. I don't think you have to, but the reason that I suggest that is 80% of contractors fail in the first 5 years. And I'm probably being generous. It's probably more like 90% fail in the first 2 years.
It's a staggering number.
It is. It's unbelievable, really. But when you get up to a contractor that has been in business for 10 years, only 1% of roofing contractors stay in business for 10 years or longer. So it lets you know that this is probably a company that's doing it well. Now, with that said, sometimes I think people call other people and they say, well, yeah, you called Jimmy. Jimmy's been doing roofing for 20 years, right? But does he have a company that's been in business for 20 years? Or has Jimmy had 6 companies in 20 years? And every time he runs into problems, he closes it down and starts up another company. I'm not saying Jimmy doesn't know about roofing, but is Jimmy a good business for you to buy from?
It's a good safety measure. If you're starting from scratch, you don't know what to look for or what a good contractor consists of. It's just a good measure that you're going to eliminate a lot of bugs with looking for somebody that has experience like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think a lot of homeowners don't have their home inspected once a year, but, that's something that we really recommend. We try to go back to our homeowners once a year and touch base and just inspect the work that we've done, because we offer a lifetime workmanship warranty to our customers. So it's easy for us to catch a small problem before it turns into a big problem. But I think in general, we get storms every year. I can't recall a year, maybe you can, where we didn't get a storm.
Some years are worse than others.
But I think it's a great idea once a year to have a contractor come out, inspect the property, just make sure it's all in good condition. And I think that alone allows you to start building a relationship with a reputable contractor that's willing to come out and inspect your property, and you can start to build that relationship. Do they have good communication? Do they show up when they say they're going to show up? They can kind of, it's like their words, aren't worth it unless they're starting to walk it as well. So you can really kind of test them out a little bit. One other way that I think this happens quite commonly, actually, we get a lot of calls in the office. People will start to see their neighbors get a new roof, right? And so I think that's always should be a sign. If you see, every once in a while somebody's getting a roof done here and there.
Right.
But if you're seeing 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of your neighbors getting their roofs replaced, do you think that could be a good sign that they should have their property inspected as well?
Yeah, I think that's a gimme or gimme. If you have a handful of neighbors that are getting their roof replaced consecutively, and you haven't had yours looked at yet, you'd be doing yourself an injustice not to have it inspected.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, another sign is if there's people knocking on your door, offering them. Now, be careful with those people, because that could be anybody and they're not necessarily reputable. But, I think that's why a lot of customers call us, right? They'll reach out to UHQ and they say, hey, we think we might have storm damage. We're not sure if we have storm damage. We're seeing our neighbors' roofs get replaced. I've got siding missing. I saw some shingles come off my roof. And then they'll reach out to us, because what they're trying to avoid is having more damage. If you have storm damage and it doesn't get taken care of, and it's something you could file an insurance claim on and you miss that window, one, now you're either going to pay for it out of pocket, and two, if it gets to a point where there's leaking occurring, other damage could get worse. You could go from, okay, a situation where you could have got it fixed quickly and now you have no interior damage, versus having a situation where you don't get it addressed, you don't get your house inspected once a year, and now all of a sudden your damage got worse. All your insulation is soaked in your attic. That needs to be pulled out and replaced. You've got drywall damage that needs to be replaced. And so rather than, doing that, that's why we have a lot of customers that'll reach out to us and say, hey, do we come out and do an inspection? We think we had a storm come through. And then that allows them to be on the front end, be proactive versus the reactive side of it.
Yeah.
So this next question, we've kind of covered a little bit, but I think this is important. When should you have a contractor inspect your roof for storm damage? So we already kind of mentioned, one time a year, we're having storms come through regardless. So, setting the time once a year, if you haven't had your roof inspected in the last year, or your siding or your gutters or your windows, we recommend to do so now. I think, insurance claims, like we said before, you only have a period of time of 1 to 2 years to file the claim from the date of loss. So if you go 2 years without an inspection to your property on the exterior of your home, you're risking missing that coverage period in your policy, and you may lose out on tens or $20,000 or $30,000 of coverage that you've been paying into that entire time. I think another common time is we see this a lot. We work with realtors. People go to sell their house, and then they find there's hail damage.
Yep.
And if it's not within that period of coverage from the insurance company, now the seller either has to lower their price to accommodate for the roof, or they've got to file a claim and now try to go through this insurance claim process while they're trying to get to the closing of the house. Have you seen that before?
Oh yeah. That's common in the industry. When you go to sell your house, the roof is one thing that's going to be important to inspect, and they're definitely going to look at that. Like, it's a big portion of your home, and any issues that arise could hinder the sale of it or the timing of it. I've had people, miss closings and stuff like that because they had hail damage. They should have had it inspected a couple years ago. It probably would have gotten approved and taken care of, right?
Yeah.
But now they're stuck having to deal out thousands of dollars to get a new roof replaced just so that they can put their house back on the market.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And what is your experience with inspectors? And what I mean by that, do they typically, when they inspect and they call something hail damage, does it mean it's hail damage?
No. No. Typically the inspectors are not roofing trained. Specific. They inspect the entire house and the property. But when it comes to the roof and looking for hail damage, a lot of times that gets missed or misinterpreted. They can see obvious signs. A lot of times it ends up being a blister or a nail pop coming through the shingle or something like that.
Yeah, or mechanical damage from the installation.
Damage.
Yeah, I think I see that too, where it's like, nothing against these home inspectors, but they're being asked to inspect every aspect of the house. So like a jack of all trades.
Right.
And so they're not necessarily, and a lot of times they're going to recommend, if they think there's a chance of hail damage or damage to the roof, they're just going to say, we recommend you get a roofing professional to come out and look at the property and give you, the final say. So, I think another time when you should have a contractor come and inspect your roof for possible hail damage or storm damage is just anytime we have a storm, right? Like we said before, like being proactive can be your best friend. It can prevent additional interior damage and other things like that. So if there's a storm, what do you think, Garrett? Should they have somebody come out and just go ahead and do an inspection? Most of the time it's free.
Yeah, I was going to say the majority of the time it's free, so it can't hurt you to have somebody come out and look at it. even if it's a contractor with no experience and you call them out, you can have somebody else come out and get a second opinion. Just to have somebody look at it that has experience and knows what they're looking for. That way you can have the information you need to make a good decision for yourself and your property.
Absolutely. And so, this leads us to the next one, because it's like, okay, I should have, I may have storm damage. I've decided I want to have it inspected.
Yeah.
How do you choose a contractor to inspect your roof for storm damage? We talked about this a little bit, but I think it's better that we go a little more in depth. Yeah. So I think one of the first things we should start off with is actually not who you should choose, is who should you not choose? Because sometimes homeowners don't understand our industry as well. And then it leads them to choose a contractor out of convenience, and then they end up unhappy.
Yep.
Have you seen that happen before?
Yes, absolutely.
And, I think some of the common ways we see this happen is they did my neighbor's roof, right? There's a sign in the yard. Yeah.
It's so uncle, cousin's, brother's, nephew's business, and I know him.
Yeah, recommended by a family, friend, or neighbor. I think that is like what I will warn you about. I've been doing this, for 24 years in this industry. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to somebody, they hired their family or a friend of a friend, and they see this person at least once a year, like a family function, Thanksgiving, Christmas, or whatever. And they're like, I don't even like going to the function anymore because this person didn't do a good job for me. or they didn't finish the job. And so sometimes it's easy to say, well, who's the family friend or friend of a friend that we can call? Check. I'm not saying they're going to be bad, but I'm saying like, you should do your research, right? Yeah. Like, go online, look at their Google. Do they have Google reviews? Have they been in business for 10 years? Like I said before, a contractor who's been in business for 10 years is a 1% contractor. Only 1% of roofing contractors stay in business for 10 years or longer. Yeah. So that's a really good benchmark to look at. I think another good one is Google reviews. Do you ever go to a restaurant and then like look at the Google reviews first?
Oftentimes it's the first thing that pops up when you look up a restaurant that you've never been to is the reviews on it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, people look at Google reviews for everything.
And I think when you look at Google reviews, it's like, how many do they have? Do they have like 100 Google reviews, or do they have 10?
They got one solid review and that's their only review. How legitimate are you going to take that?
Yeah. So it's like, how many reviews do they have? Like, me and my significant other, Kate, we don't like to go to a restaurant unless it's 4.5 stars. Yeah. Because what we found is when it's below 4.5 stars, then like, it may not be great. And depending on how many reviews are there, right? Like, and if you get below 4 stars, like, I mean, I can pretty much tell you, like, she's not going to be happy, and, mama's not happy, ain't nobody happy. Right. And so I think Google reviews are a great way. And again, it's not the end all be all. It's not to say that there's not a newer contractor that could be coming up and like could do a good job for you and just hasn't established himself. Yep. But is it riskier to try to choose that contractor? Or is it riskier to choose a contractor that's been in 10 years, been in business 10 years, has good Google reviews, has a significant amount of Google reviews? I think that's what's to look for. So not like, hey, if they don't, just because they're in the neighbor's yard doesn't mean you shouldn't choose them. Right. But it also doesn't mean like that should be the only thing you're taking into consideration.
I mean, do your due diligence, right? If you're going to go buy a car, you're going to make sure it's got good brakes on it. You're going to make sure the tires are good. You're going to make sure it runs well. And there are things that you have to just have experience in over time. You'll be able to tell whether that decision was the right one or not. But there's definitely checks that you can make before you make that decision that just ensure that that decision is going to be a good one for you.
Yeah, a little bit of time goes a long way. It's like we said is like your home is maybe your largest investment or one of your largest investments. And when you look at getting a roof or siding or windows on your largest investment, that may be one of the largest investments you make on your home. Yeah. And so you might want to make sure to take the time to get a good contractor. So we talked about like what to be like, don't just pick people because of this. And obviously, like, I think we all know if they've got bad reviews, they have no like online presence today in 2025 or beyond, maybe not going to be a good choice. But like, who should you pick when you're looking to pick a contractor? What are some things that they should look for when they're choosing a contractor?
I mean, some of these things are review as well, but a trusted contractor is going to have a good Better Business Bureau rating. No complaints on that. And Better Business Bureau is all about customer satisfaction and experience. So that's a huge one to look at. Good reviews on Google, like we had mentioned. Looking for their website. Do they have an online presence? It's 2025.
Yeah.
Right. We're in a time where people are using the
like
internet.
AI could write them a website pretty quickly and it'd be good. But does it have pictures of like recent projects? Does it have videos of customer testimonials? Like, is it presentable? Does it look good? Like, is this a real company? Because a lot of homeowners will choose a contractor, they'll know based off a website, like, is this reputable or, is this person a bit behind the times?
I mean, a good website's also going to give the homeowner a chance to get to know that company or that contractor before ever having to meet them. Yeah. And so I think a lot of people eventually will look for a website or go there so that they can start to get acquainted.
Absolutely. I think other good ways, like we've said before, 10 years in business, it's going to help cut out a lot of the contractors that are still at that risky side of the age of the business. Communication.
It's huge.
Huge.
Along with that transparency as well.
Yeah. How many times have you had a customer where they've had other contractors out and then the contractor tells them, I'll have you an estimate tomorrow. I'll have you an estimate in a week. And they never get the estimate.
More times than you'd think.
Yeah. I mean, in our retail side of the business, we get it all the time where we'll say, what are you looking for in a contractor? And they'll say, just give me an estimate. I've had 5 guys out here and nobody actually ever gives me an estimate. That communication, I think communication starts earlier than that. Like, do they answer their phone when you call? Do they call you back? Do they communicate with you prior to that appointment to confirm that appointment with you? Are they having good communication? I think there's multiple stages to that. Again, it's 2025. There's a lot of automated parts of this that can help make sure that communication is open.
Are they welcoming, right? Are they excited to hear from you when you call, as they should be? Or do they act like they're in the middle of something?
Are they in the middle of something? Are they annoyed that you called?
Right.
Yeah. Like, what's that experience going to be like after you get that?
Right.
What else do you think is important for them to look for?
A good contractor is, like I said, they're going to be really transparent throughout the process, and being able to communicate with you, not withholding any information, being open to answer questions. They're also going to, if you call a contractor out to do an inspection for storm damages, they should walk away with and you should walk away with photos and documentation of that. So I think it's important to look for a contractor that's going to actually put together a report to give to you, whether you have damage or not, because it's good to know. Like, if you have an inspection done this year, no damage done, great. You have another inspection done the following year, and you notice some differences and there's some new damages. Well, it's easy to go back and compare it with the other inspection and say, hey, these are new damages. This must have occurred this past year. But it's important for a contractor to do that for you, because that's why you're having them out there in the first place.
Absolutely. And I think it's also another good, having an inspection report from the contractor of what they found or didn't find, but also like an estimate, like big
part of it.
Yeah. So many times contractors come out and insurance claims, they do a contingency contract, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And so then they don't write up any actual estimate. And so I think like an estimate is important. Like, if they're going to come out, they don't have to necessarily deliver it right there on the spot, but like hey, I'm going to put together this inspection report with all these photos. I'm going to put together an estimate for you. And then we're going to get back together and we're going to go over that together so you understand. I think a lot of times homeowners want like, just email it to me. Well, sometimes this stuff is so complex. Like this is way better to sit down. Like again, one of the largest investments on your largest investment, having a contractor that's willing to sit down and go through the details with you, because if you don't know what's actually happening, if they're not thoroughly explaining to you, preferably in person, how do you really know what you're getting?
Right. It's a big question. You could give somebody an estimate and it says roof replacement.
Yeah.
Total amount.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay. But, some people, for lack of better terms, they want to customize, right? They want to know exactly what they're getting on their house. They want to know different options.
Yeah.
And it's important to have that estimate and to be able to have a contractor that's willing to walk you through the estimate, line item by line item. What are you actually getting done here and what are you paying for?
Absolutely. And that's why I think we get a lot of calls at UHQ Construction, because we do have good Google reviews between our two offices, Carmel and Greenwood. We cover up to a 60-mile radius outside of 465. So we cover a pretty large territory. We've been in business for over 10 years. And we come out, we do good inspection reports, we provide written estimates, we do our best to have great communication. We think that we're not just selling products, we're building relationships with people. We have so many people that like are repeat customers with us over the years. And so, if you're trying to find a good contractor, I'd suggest giving us a call and having us take a look at it for you, because the last thing that you want here is to get Chuck in a truck. Chuck in a truck, if you don't know, Chuck in a truck is a one-man show. Yeah. And he's doing everything himself. He's answering the phones. He has no receptionist. He's getting on all the roofs. He's inspecting it all. He's putting together, typically estimates on napkins or like a paragraph and a price. And there's no like line item details, and we really recommend like avoiding that type of experience, because you want to have a good quality job. You want to have something that you have the peace of mind that it's done right. And it doesn't matter what the value of your home is. I can introduce you to a customer that we're doing a project on today that they got a very expensive roof. I mean, this roof was $60,000 or $70,000 after buying the home, and it was an insurance claim. Yep. And they didn't really get some of these great things to look for taken care of. It was like they were recommended to them. And now we're still out there fixing a 2-year-old roof. Yeah. Because it wasn't done properly. And, so you really don't want to have to deal with that. You really want to have that peace of mind that like, I chose a good contractor. They stand behind it with a lifetime workmanship warranty. And then you have, confidence in your home, right?
Yep.
So next, a lot of people are like, okay, do I have damage or not? But like, what are important things that a homeowner needs to know before they file a claim? Because I think like, it's like, do I have damage or not? Yes, file a claim. I don't think that's all of it personally. Garrett, what do you think? Like, what are other things that they need to know before they file a claim?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple different points that you need to be aware of before filing a claim. And one of those would just be how long do you have, right? What's that time period? We talked about that year to 2-year time period from the date of the storm that you had to file a claim. You need to know that. So Absolutely. On top of that, you need to know the date that the storm occurred.
Yeah. And what's common ways to find out storm dates? Like if you weren't home or it was at night and you just don't know, how do you figure out a storm date?
Well, there's weather reports. You can go to, National Weather Service, and there's also platforms you can use to get address specified storm reports, and you can talk to your neighbors too. If they were home and the storm occurred and you weren't, you can talk to your neighbors. There's several ways that you can find out what the actual effect in the storm result was at your property.
Absolutely. What other things do they need to know about?
When it comes to your policy, this is why you need to understand what your policy covers. But, the deductible amount, if you're considering filing a claim, you need to know, well, what is it? What am I going to end up having to pay out of pocket?
Yeah. Because like years ago when I first got into this business, deductibles were $250, $500.
Yeah.
And it was very common for contractors to eat the deductible, right? Which basically means they didn't make the homeowner pay for the deductible. Well, now they've raised, one of the strategies of insurance companies was they raised the deductible amount so contractors can't just eat the deductible or they're working for free, right?
Yeah.
And so the other thing on the other side of deductibles, because a lot of people, if you've had a roof replaced through insurance before, maybe a contractor has done that, it's not common to see that. And I think the thing you got to be careful with when you encounter a contractor that may be willing to eat your deductible, because that's insurance fraud, first off, right? Felony insurance fraud, right?
Yeah.
If that contractor is willing to go behind your insurance company's back to defraud them, what are they willing to do on your roof when you're not looking?
Right.
What corners are they going to cut? Because they got to find a way to make a profit. If they're eating the deductible, where are they going to make their money?
They're going to make that up somewhere.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Whether it's like inferior products, not replacing everything that's supposed to be replaced. So, as a homeowner, you be prepared to pay your deductible. And that's why I think it is important to know, what is your deductible? And it's not just important to know when it's time to file a claim.
Yeah.
Again, get ahead of that game, get with your insurance agent and know your deductible and be comfortable with the deductible that you have to make sure that if a storm happens and you need to file a claim, you're prepared to be able to pay that deductible.
100%. It's also, that's why it's important to have a detailed estimate as well. Find a contractor that's willing to walk through that estimate with you. That way there is no hidden corners.
Yeah.
If, the contractor comes and is willing to eat the deductible and you get the estimate and it's just a paragraph stating we're replacing your roof with a total amount, you can almost be sure there's going to be some corners cut.
Yeah.
But if everything's laid out in the estimate and you can tell what they're doing specifically, and it can give you a little bit more of a leeway and comfort going into that.
Absolutely. Other things that may be important to know in your insurance policy, code upgrades, right? Is code covered? Most policies do. I think it should be outlawed to not sell a policy
100%.
with code coverage. But some of these policies we see today where the homeowner just went a really, really low premium. Now they've got an ACV policy, which is only actual cash replacement, really high deductible, no code coverage. And it just puts them in a terrible spot.
Yeah. Nobody ends up happy in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's important to know, we mentioned ACV versus RCV, right? And I think it's good to kind of explain what that means. Do you have an ACV policy and RCV policy? An ACV policy stands for an actual cash value policy.
Yep.
This means that you're going to get paid based off of the value of the roof. And that is based off of age and condition of the roof.
Yeah.
So based off the age of the roof, so let's say you have a shingle that is rated for 30 years and it's been on there for 20 years, they're going to deduct 20 years of life off of it. So if they were going to pay you $10,000, now they're going to pay you $3,333.
Yep.
And they're going to depreciate the roof is what they call as depreciation. Where an RCV policy is a replacement cost value policy. This is maybe considered like a full replacement policy as like people like to think of. And what that means is if the roof is 20 years old, 30-year rated shingle, they will initially write you a check for ACV, which would be the actual cash value. Here is a check for $3,333. This is what your roof is worth today.
Yep.
When you get the work done and the contractor submits an invoice and possibly pictures showing completion, we will release the other $664, $66, $67 that fulfills that $10,000 gap, and they cover full replacement. It is really risky to have an ACV policy, don't you think?
Yeah. solely my opinion, but if it was up to having an ACV policy or no insurance at all, I would probably pick the no insurance.
Which your mortgage company probably won't allow.
Yeah, that's true. You definitely check with the mortgage company, but from an experience point of view, from that perspective of a contractor such as myself or you, Corey, that has experience, they know what the claim process looks like. They know the difference between RCV and ACV. ACV just doesn't make sense.
100%.
It doesn't make sense to have it.
Yeah, it's, is it riskier to only get paid $3,000 on a $10,000 roof, or is it more risky to make sure that you're going to get it all the way replaced and everything's covered other than your deductible?
Inflation's inevitable as well.
Yeah.
So over time, that cost to replace your roof is going to continue to increase, and that RCV covers that.
Yeah,
which is nice.
And that's why, we get a lot of calls in the office, and homeowners will call us and say, I think I have damage. My other neighbors are getting roofs, but I need to know if I should file a claim.
Yep.
And so we get a lot of those calls because homeowners don't want to file a claim and then have a claim on their record if they don't actually have damage. And they want to make sure that if they do file a claim, they have a contractor to back them up all the way and say, yeah, we're willing to go to fight for you. We're going to do our best to make sure this actually gets approved by doing inspections and having inspection reports, complete estimates, and having the experience of being in business for over 10 years and, having great reviews. People know they can trust us. 100%. And I think that's the biggest thing when you go into these is, should I file a claim? You want to make sure whoever's advising you as a contractor is somebody you can trust to make sure it's going to go well for you.
Yep.
Another common question we get with homeowners is, once we get to the stage where it's like, okay, hey, maybe you should file a claim here if you want to, because it should be their decision. How do you file a claim with the insurance company? What does that look like? Garrett, how are they going to file a claim?
Can I just start by saying your agents are the salespeople and they are not the ones that you call to file a claim?
Yeah.
So many homeowners, a lot of times your agent is somebody you're connected to that it's a friend or a referral of some sort, and you have created a relationship with them over time. But when it comes to the claim process, they have nothing to do with it.
100%.
And a lot of people, sometimes homeowners are misunderstanding that my agent can help get approved, right? They can put in a good word for me or something along those lines. And that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So when you go to file an insurance claim, there's a couple different ways you could do that. Every insurance company has a hotline that you can call. There's also apps, and a lot of them are moving to apps or online options to file a claim. Yep. So those are a couple different ways you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I mean, very rarely does the insurance agent have the ability to help you get a claim approved. And even if they do, it's not going to be at the initial stage of filing the claim. The initial stage of filing a claim is reaching out either through a phone, an app, or a website, and filing the claim. That's just getting the process started, right?
Yep.
So, I think a lot of times the best way to do this is to first have a contractor that you trust.
Yep.
And okay, this person's giving me an inspection report. I've got an estimate. Okay, now it's time to move forward to that, filing a claim. And I think it's highly important to have that contractor present when you file the claim, having the contractor there. So if you get asked a question by the person on the phone, what is your date of loss? Knowing that date of loss, knowing those things we talked about, what do you need to know before you file? You may talk to a contractor about it. I mean, I've experienced this where I talk to somebody, hey, here's the date of loss, but then they forget what it is later, right?
Yeah.
If you've got your contractor there, they can help you. Also, they can add you as a point of contact, right?
Right.
Which is very helpful. And then also give them the permission to talk to the contractor. Some of these insurance companies, I don't think they're bad companies, but they're in business to not be paying everybody whatever they ask for. profitable.
Yeah, they're in business to be profitable.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you may need to give them permission or permit the contractor to work with the insurance company on your behalf, right?
Right. Absolutely. And there's a couple different ways that you could do that. One, if, over the phone, if you were to call the hotline, a lot of times you can help expedite the process a little bit just by filing with your contractor. That way you can give them permission right away. Say, this is a contractor we're working with, and give them permission to communicate with the contractor as well.
Yeah.
And again, you want to make sure the contractor is going to be transparent. That way, during the communication, that you're kept up to date on that. That would be really important as well.
Yeah. And that's why we get a lot of homeowners that call us and it's like, hey, will you come look at it? But also, will you be here when I file a claim? Like, can you give me some peace of mind? Because unfortunately, if you give the insurance company the wrong information, I know this sounds crazy to some people who may be listening to this.
Yeah,
if you give them the wrong date of loss, if you say the wrong thing during that process, it could cost you the whole claim, and you may have to file now a second claim for absolutely no good reason, because the insurance company has policies on how it's handled. And if you don't have somebody there, and so we have a lot of homeowners that are like, look, I just want this to go well. Will you come file this claim of this?
Right.
And we say, absolutely. We're there to make sure you have the peace of mind. We deal with insurance claims. We're there very often when our customers file claims, so we can help back them up and give them that peace of mind.
Yeah.
A big topic of debate is, what are contingency contracts and how can they help a customer, right?
Yeah.
So, first off, like, what are contingency contracts? A contingency contract is basically securing the approval with a homeowner that if I work to help get you approved through your insurance company, you are guaranteeing me that work.
Yes.
That I'm going to be the contractor that does the work, correct?
Correct. Yep.
So I think there's different kinds of contingency contracts, right? So I think that, I think there's two main ones, right? There is a blank one that basically says, I'm not going to give you any pricing. I'm not going to give you any information other than, if I get you approved, you choose me as the contractor. And then the other side of it is, a good contractor would say, here is an inspection report. Here is a very detailed estimate. And yes, we're going to put a contingency in here. So if I earn their business, if I get you approved, then I earn your business, because the contractor's going to put a lot of work in. There's a reason that contractors have contingency contracts, because otherwise we put in all this work and then all of a sudden they choose somebody else. And now it takes work. It takes a lot of time. So I think it's reasonable that contractors ask for contingencies. But it's, showing that intent that, like, I'm going to go with you.
Yeah.
I think they're important. What do you think?
I think contingencies are a very valuable thing for both a contractor and a homeowner. But they shouldn't be the first thing that you do. Yeah. But if a contractor's coming and introducing himself, or he gets referred to you, and before they even look at the property or give you an estimate or anything, they want you to sign a contingency, it's probably a red flag.
Yeah.
All right. The contingency contract, that should be one of the last things you do before you file a claim. That's kind of like okay, we've got what we needed. We did our research. We found a contractor we trust, showing the good signs. He gave us an estimate. He gave us an inspection report. We know the property's damaged. We're ready to file a claim and get this rolling. Let's sign a contingency contract to, also gives the contractor permission to speak on your behalf.
100%.
And that's another reason why you want to go through your due diligence and research on the company and the contractors before signing the contingency.
100%. Choose the contractor you want to use on the claim before you file the claim.
Yes.
Then allow that contractor to work with the insurance company to get you what you need and deserve, because it will make it so much easier for you. I think I've seen it so many times where homeowners will try to handle the claim on their own, and they just like don't know what they're doing. They don't understand the lingo. And then all of a sudden it's not going well. And then all of a sudden they finally say, I'm going to hire a contractor. The contractor comes in and gets it all approved. And they go, well, that seems so easy. Well, it's easy. It can seem easy if you know what you're doing. But it's really important to choose who you're going to go with and kind of guarantee them like, yeah, hey, if you're going to put all this work in, then yeah, you certainly can earn my business.
Yeah.
Right?
I think from the insurance side of things too, like there are people that will, file a claim. They'll use a contractor to help get everything approved. And then they get a big ACV check that was unexpected and they don't end up doing any work.
Yeah.
So the contingency portion for a homeowner also shows intent to get the work done.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important when it comes to working with your insurance company. It gives your insurance company comfort that you're going to do the work and that you're not just going to take the money and run.
Absolutely. 100%. Or get the money and then try to hire a cheaper contract, which again, if you take more money, let's say you take $10,000 from your insurance company and you only pay your contractor $7,000, that becomes insurance fraud.
Yeah. Yep.
So you got to be careful.
What was it it was millions of complaints on the BBB for contractors. It was like 85% of them had trouble even getting the job done.
100%.
When they chose the cheapest one.
That's right. 100%. So yeah, over 10 million complaints against contractors, according to the Better Business Bureau. And what they found is that a majority of the time, homeowners just had issues getting the project complete. Not that it looked good, not that it was done correctly.
Right.
Just getting the project done is the issue a majority of the time.
Yep.
So now you've filed a claim with the insurance company. So after you file a claim with the insurance company, like what does the process look like? And like, what do you expect during that process? Garrett, you work tons of these claims. What should somebody expect?
Yeah. So when you go to file a claim right away, they're going to give you a claim number. This is like the first thing that you get a claim number assigned. And this is really important for you and your contractor to be able to communicate with the insurance company. The insurance company is going to base everything off of that claim number.
Yeah.
So, a claim number gets assigned and then an adjuster will get assigned. The next step for that is that they schedule an adjuster appointment. An adjuster is just another inspector that works for the insurance company, or sometimes works for the insurance company. And they'll come and do an inspection, and it should be a repeat of inspection of what the contractor that you chose did.
Yeah.
They're looking at the same things.
Yep.
From there, the adjuster appointment will get set. And then another important thing is that like your contractor should be willing to meet the adjuster out there during that time. This is for several reasons, and we can dive into that a little bit. But I think one important thing that gets overlooked is that when your contractor is willing to meet the adjuster out there, it gives them an opportunity to build trust between them as well.
Yeah.
A good relationship with the adjuster is really important.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you've heard stories as well of contractors just arguing and fighting with adjusters out on the job. And it definitely doesn't help the case, does it?
Never helps. Yeah. What is it? Sugar gets you a lot further than salt. You want to build a relationship with these adjusters, right? If you go out there and I'm going to argue with you about this, that's not going anywhere.
No.
What we want to do is we want to meet that adjuster out there, be friendly. I mean, it's just business. Like this isn't personal. I think sometimes with homeowners, we see it the most. They're contractors too, especially hungry contractors that don't have a lot of sales.
Yeah.
Then they're like out there like fighting and yelling and screaming, and this adjuster is like, why would you ever think I'm going to help you at this point?
Right.
Yeah. We see that too much because the next stage is it would get approved, right?
Yeah.
And then we need a supplement. And typically when we supplement, we're going to go back to that same adjuster.
Right.
So we've been yelling and screaming at this adjuster, and then we go, and you missed all this stuff, they're probably going to be a little harder to work with. It goes back to like when I say is, when it comes to an insurance claim, first it depends on what carrier you chose, what policy you bought from them, what's your deductible, and then what adjuster gets assigned and what mood is that adjuster in, because that, hail damage and storm damage is open to interpretation.
Yep.
And so if you rub that adjuster the wrong way, there's a very good chance that they're probably not going to be as on your side. Whereas if you're a little more friendly with them, it's easier to persuade that person into seeing it your way.
Yeah.
Versus if you've been rude or unkind to them.
Yeah. And the whole point too is like your contractor's already completed an inspection. So they should know what they've seen and what damage is on the property already. So the whole point of having a contractor out at the adjuster appointment is it's an opportunity for you as a homeowner and the contractor to get on the same page and agree upon what's been damaged with the adjuster, because the adjuster is going to eventually make a decision on what's getting replaced or how much is getting paid out for what. And it's important that everybody stays on the same page with that.
Yeah. And sometimes that means the adjuster's meeting needs to be rescheduled. If there's, adjuster calls, schedules it with the homeowner, and the homeowner calls the contractor's like, I already have an appointment at that time. Like, can we move it to a different date? It's good to move it to that different date. A red flag to me would be if a contractor says, yeah, I can't make it, but just have them do it anyways.
Yeah.
Not a good idea. Not a good idea. Nobody's there advocating for that homeowner. So get the claim number, adjuster's assigned, adjuster appointment set, adjuster appointment happens. They determine if there's damage. Now there are third-party adjusters and or companies like that, which we'll talk about here shortly. Then there becomes a supplement negotiation, which we're going to talk about. 99% of the time, supplements are needed.
Yeah.
Insurance companies dictate the way that these adjusters can write it up. So they'll allow them to initially approve only X, Y, but you need Z. They won't approve it initially, but if we supplement, they will approve the Z. And so then once we get through the supplement negotiations, then we agree upon the scope, including the trades and any upgrades. Sometimes, homeowners want to upgrade to, very commonly these days, the Class 4 impact rated shingle.
Yep.
Which is more hail resistant and can lower their insurance premiums.
Yep.
And basically at the end of the day, a good contractor is going to help them walk them through this whole process. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, a lot of times when people have an insurance claim and they call us because they're like, hey, I want somebody to help me get through this process. I don't even know what it is that's going to happen next, but I want somebody I can work with and take me through this process, because I don't want to, one, get taken advantage of by my insurance company. I don't want to miss something and miss out on not getting my claim approved. I want to make sure that I've got somebody there advocating for me throughout the process, right? It's like you want to go to court without an attorney. You don't want to go through an exterior claim on your home without having the contractor there to help go through it.
Yeah. Excuse me. And I'll just add this too, that it's important to know that, your adjusters at insurance companies are not roofing professionals, right? So there are things that, a good contractor is going to catch on. The adjuster may come out and approve a certain job. In order to do that job correctly, and we see this a lot with like step flashing, right? In order to replace a roofing system correctly, a lot of times, and majority of the time, that step flashing needs to be replaced. Well, an insurance company doesn't necessarily know like the correct way to do that. And so a lot of times that's why that Z gets left off, right? You got X, Y, and then in order to complete X and Y, you have to do Z. And if you don't have a good contractor, they're going to look at that initial estimate from your insurance and say, looks good, let's do that.
Yep.
And then they're going to miss out on the Z.
Yeah, 100%. And like it's, step flashing or like flashings in general are the most common points for leaks to happen.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of siding in addition to roofing. And I can't tell you how many times we go to somebody's house, they've had their roof replaced by insurance claim, and the roofing contractor doesn't replace the step flashing, nor do they run ice and water shield up the wall 6 inches, which is the right way to do this.
Yep.
And it drives me insane because I'm like, you went all this way, you got like 10% from the finish line, you just stopped.
Yep.
And you didn't do it the right way. You didn't cut the siding or detach and reset the siding. So that way you can run your ice and water shield up the wall, which by the way is code in our state. And then to run the ice and water shield, we've got to remove the step flashing, install step flashing. Well, if you understand this process, like you said, not all adjusters are contractors or have ever replaced a roof. So finding a contractor that's going to say, hey, we've got to do X, Y, and Z. I can't do X and Y without Z. And you can explain that to the insurance company, document that in pictures throughout the process. Then the insurance company is going to approve that and they're going to cover it. That's how a claim that's $10,000 goes to $12,000, you know, $20,000 to $30,000 sometimes. It's a matter of doing the claim the right way. We have another video on our YouTube channel where I talk about, you know, I had a customer who it went from 40,000 to like 60,000. And it was just like, I mean, 40,000 was below our cost. Like, I didn't even understand how they were going to put this roof on. Well, they weren't going to do it the right way. Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And so sometimes people are like, well, I got a quote from the other contractor and he's $10,000 less than you. Okay, well, what's he not doing? There's no way that contractor is doing that project for $10,000 less than me. And he's doing the same project. Let me see that estimate, which is why we have an estimate match guarantee at UHQ Construction, is because we've been doing estimate match guarantee since we started because we want to be as competitive with our pricing. We want to do a good job for people, but we want to do it the right way. And what we've learned is most homeowners say, I'm willing to pay you a little bit more, Corey, if you're going to do it the right way for me. And I think that's like a really important part of this process. When you're going through the claim process is if you're a contractor, you should be able to explain to the insurance company, this is the right way to do it. And this is why. Yeah. Now that's not to say there's going to be things that may not be covered, right? Like if you don't have ice and water shield on the eaves and it's not code, or you don't have drip edge and it's not code in your area, then that may be an upgrade charge that you're going to want to pay for to have the roof done a little bit better than before. And then in the next insurance claim, it would be covered. Right. So, you know, that's why a lot of people call us. It's like, hey, I want to get my roof done right. I just don't want like some cheap insurance roof. I want it done right. So very commonly, insurance companies, Garrett, they love to ask for 3 estimates, or they recommend to a homeowner to get 3 estimates. First off, do they have to get 3 estimates?
No, they don't have to get 3 estimates.
Yeah. And like, why is it you think that these insurance companies want the homeowner to get 3 estimates?
Well, we joke around a lot, but sometimes the insurance company wants a homeowner to get the lowest price. So at the end of the day, the insurance doesn't have to pay out the highest price.
100%.
Again, insurance is a business. They're in it for profit. So they want to pay out and they want to do right, but they want to do as little as possible.
100%. Yeah. 100%. And these big companies, I will tell you, they have structured their systems to pay out as little as possible. They've been doing this for a long time.
They're good at it.
They're good at it. They deal with thousands of claims every day. And so they don't want to pay any more than they have to. What are some other reasons that they want homeowners to get 3 estimates?
They hope that, the contractor will eventually sell you a roof and then they won't have to pay, right? Sometimes it'll just get, when you get 3 different estimates, it's more likely that one of those contractors is going to come and sell you a retail roof and not want to deal with the insurance. Yeah. Again, it plays in the benefit of the insurance company because it gives them opportunity to not have to pay anything.
Absolutely.
On top of that, they also hope that the homeowner will not just choose the first contractor at their door, but rather do some research. And I think this is important to do anyways. But when you sign the contingency contract, that takes away the 3 estimates. Like, your research on the contractors should have already been done before filing a claim.
Yeah, absolutely. When I first got into this business, over 20 years ago, working on insurance claims, basically storm chasing was a huge business where companies went from state to state to state to chase the hailstorms. There's a little bit of that still, but not as much as it used to be, because now local companies will chase the storms. Right. So we don't see these big storm chasers come in, but we see local companies more. But, I think one of the reasons they always said 3 estimates was because so many times they'd get people knocking on the doors and they'd be like, hey, you should just choose me, which I'm not saying you should. Maybe it's a local company that's got good reviews and maybe you don't need 3 estimates, right? But the insurance company was like, well, hopefully this will cut down on some of these scammers, because the out-of-town contractors are the worst.
Yeah.
They come in, they do the roof.
Sign this contingency.
They give you a bumper warranty. If you're not familiar with bumper warranties, when you see the bumper of their truck crest the hill on the road and you can't see their bumper anymore, that's when your warranty's over. And so they offer these bumper warranties, right? And so it's just good to kind of take that into consideration, that it's okay to do your research, find a contractor, and have that contractor come out and choose that contractor. That's 100% okay. Yeah. But you don't have to get 3 estimates from an insurance company. I think that's, they push on it because they want to lower the price. They want to see more eyes in this, but I think a majority of the reason is because they do just want you to have to choose from the lowest price. It is your 100% choice who you choose as a contractor, right, wrong, indifferent. You don't have to get 3 quotes. You can choose the contractor that you want, and you can tell the insurance company that they need to work with them. Here's what that contractor is providing, and have that peace of mind that you don't have to go get 3 estimates.
Yeah,
it's not required. So we get homeowners call us all the time, and it's like, yeah, my insurance company wants 3 estimates. And we go out there and we explain it no, this isn't the case. And a lot of times the homeowner's like, well, nobody will give me an estimate. I told them I needed 3 estimates and nobody will give me an estimate. I think that just puts a homeowner at risk of finding the lowest price.
Yeah.
And look, at the end of the day, you get what you pay for, right? We all know that. You don't go to a Hyundai dealership, buy a brand new Hyundai, and drive away in a Mercedes.
No.
Right? There's a difference between an Applebee's steak and a Prime 47 steak, right? And you get what you pay for. And so you got to be careful out there shopping for 3 estimates, because if you look at that and you're like, well, then this guy's charging more than that guy, and you don't understand those differences, you're likely to end up with not getting what you need and deserve in your insurance claim.
Yeah.
And that's why you got to find a trusted contractor, so hey, this person's going to go bat for me. They're going to get what I need approved. Yeah.
And I'll add this too. I mean, the contractor that you're working with should be matching what your insurance pays for.
Yeah.
So when it comes,
unless you want an upgrade,
right? And this is in the case of an RCV policy as well. And ACV too, you're just gonna have more out of pocket. But the price is only important to your insurance company because they're the one paying it. At the end of the day, your contractor should, of course, ensure that the price is up to what it needs to be so that they can do the job correctly. But it's not about getting the cheapest price for you. It's about finding a good contractor where the insurance company is going to pay for what's needed.
100%. I have a customer where he had a few rental houses, and he calls me up and he says, Corey, I know I'm going to use you because all I got to pay you is my deductible. And I know how good you are. You're going to do a really good job for me. And that's what you want to keep in mind as a homeowner, right? I'm going to pay my deductible. How do I get the best roof possible for my deductible?
Yep.
That's what I think they should be looking for, right?
Yeah. And don't let that confuse you either as a homeowner. You're saying, well, I only have to pay $1,000. So why does it matter who puts on my roof if it's only $1,000?
100%.
Right. That's still important. You want the most value out of that $1,000 if you're going to have to pay it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what happens at an adjuster's meeting? You know, I think this is a very common question from homeowners. Like, well, what's going to happen when this adjuster comes? Yeah. So walk us through, Garrett. Like, what does a common adjuster's appointment look like?
Well, you know, the adjuster's going to show up. He's going to come talk to the homeowner, let him know that we're going to do an inspection. And this inspection should be, if you have chosen a good contractor, should basically be a repeat of what your contractor's already done. So they'll come take a look at your entire property. They're going to walk around your entire home. And they're going to look for, the things that we had mentioned earlier on, such as any obvious signs to your house or your property, such as blown off siding or holes in your siding, dings on your soft metals and gutters and downspouts. They call this collateral damage. And what this does for your adjusters actually helps them put together the full story.
Yeah.
Right. If they are going to approve a claim, it's got to make sense.
Yeah.
They can't have, they take a lot in consideration with this. And that's why they print out, they have storm reports because they're going to take into consideration the size of the hail, the intensity of the storm, like what direction was the wind coming from, what direction was the storm moving. And they're going to take all this into consideration as they go and look at your property. But it should be a pretty detailed inspection. Your adjuster appointment shouldn't be a 10-minute inspection. Usually it's up to an hour to an hour and a half inspection while they're there, depending on the size of the property.
Yeah.
So, and another thing that's going to happen during that adjuster appointment, you may notice them marking stuff with chalk.
Yeah.
Or they might have a flashlight looking at your gutters, and you may be wondering, like, what it's in the middle of the day, why do they have a flashlight out? Why are they drawing on my house or my roof or something like that? Well, when it comes to your roof, an adjuster's going to get up there and draw out what we call test squares. It's a 10 by 10, a 10 foot by 10 foot square on all four sides of your roof.
Yeah, they're not playing hopscotch on your roof. Just so you know.
No. This is so that 10 by 10 test square is actually acting as like a summary for all of the slopes on that roof. So they have one on each side, and they're not going to spend the entire time looking at every square inch of your roof. So they take this 10 by 10 as into consideration, basically for a summary of the damages on that one side. So you'll see them, draw that test square out. You'll see maybe markings on gutters of chalk or downspouts of chalk. It helps bring out the damages to make sure they're easier to see. Because at the end of the day, these adjusters are going to go around and take hundreds of photos. And then these photos are going to get sent back to, somebody that's a desk adjuster, which is oftentimes the decision maker.
Yeah.
And the decision maker doesn't, very rarely are they ever out there on the property. They're going to sit back and look at the pictures that were taken and make a determination on the damages from that. Yeah. So, they're going to go around and during an adjuster appointment, that's kind of what happens during that inspection.
Yeah, because it used to be years ago. I mean, we would go to these adjuster appointments and they would just write it up and give them a check, on the spot. I approve this. Insurance companies have learned they want a little bit of gatekeeping happening. They don't want it to be that easy anymore. Yeah. So very, like you said, there are occasions still where you will see an approval on site, but very rarely is that the case anymore. Now it's, whether it's an adjuster from the insurance company or a third party adjuster that's going to come out and do these inspections, which is becoming more and more common.
Yeah.
To where the third party comes out, the insurance company doesn't even come. It's some third party company. They do the inspection and they send that information to the adjuster. And it's really unfortunate because I think I don't want to say it's a way for insurance companies to get out of paying damage. You know, they deal with a lot of claims and they got to figure out how to like make this process work. But I think sometimes it, you know, makes it tougher to get a claim approved when somebody deserves it, when you don't have people out there that actually make the decision.
Yeah.
And also when you have third-party companies that work only for the insurance companies. They don't ever work for any homeowners.
No.
They only work for insurance companies.
Don't let them fool you.
You know, it's like, who would you be more loyal to? The person who pays you or the person who doesn't pay you?
Yeah.
You know, just one of those thoughts there. But yeah, so they're going to come out, they're going to do these inspections. They're very thorough inspections, I like to think. And like you said, like a good contractor will have already done this inspection, have an inspection report and estimate. And, you know, I find it common, even though we send those to them ahead of time, they don't look at them. Or they say they don't look at them. I don't always even believe that they don't look at them. They will say, oh, I want to have a fresh set of eyes on it. And it's like, I mean, that's fine. And then, you know, another important thing, I think you may have mentioned it there, but they should look at interior damage. So like if you have any interior damage, any leaks on the inside of your home from this storm damage, you know, we want to show that to the adjuster, which means you should be home during it. I think it's great for homeowners to be home during these inspections to help advocate. Again, it's not a time to like combat or fight the adjuster.
Yeah.
It's a time to look at the facts.
Yeah. And this goes back to why it's important to have a contractor out there as well, because, you know, the third-party adjusters are becoming a lot more common. And to be honest with you, they go out there, they look for the obvious stuff. They'll send in pictures of the obvious stuff. And if you're not there as a contractor, pointing out the things that are likely to be missed to them is going to be helpful up front. Because on the other side of things, if it wasn't a third-party adjuster, then the person that's making the decision or having to make adjustments on the back end, if there's supplements, just takes out more of their time. And they would want to avoid that and take care of everything up front. But if it's a third-party guy out there, he takes pictures, sends it off, and it's out of his hands.
Yeah.
So he doesn't care if there's more work on the back end or not. They're going to take pictures of the obvious stuff. So it's important to have a contractor out there, especially when there's a third-party guy, to walk with them through the inspection to make sure they're not missing anything.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of our customers will hire us to work with them, is because they want us to be there for that meeting. They want us to advocate for them with the insurance company as an expert in storm damage. So that way they have the highest chance of getting approved at that initial adjuster's appointment meeting. Because too commonly, if homeowners don't have a contractor there, they don't get approved. And then they got to start the whole process over. Then this is when they start to bring in contractors. And now the contractor's kind of playing from a hole, so to speak, that they got to dig out of, because they've already set up one story, right? Like the adjusters meeting is a story they put together of what has happened here to cause this damage. And if they've already kind of put the story together one way, now the contractor has to find our way back out of it. So it's just easier to have a contractor there initially to help ensure you have the best chance of getting approved as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've kind of covered this question, but we're going to just cover it quickly. You know, do you want a contractor at your adjuster's appointment meeting?
Well, would you go to court without an attorney?
I would not. I would not. And I agree. You know, you want somebody that works with the insurance company often to be there to advocate and do what needs to be done, right? And that goes back to, that's why a lot of people call us and they say like, hey, I'm filing a claim. I'd like to get a contractor hired, so I have somebody here to work through this claim with me, right?
Yeah.
So we mentioned third-party inspection companies. So let's talk about what they are, because I think this is becoming more and more common, and so many homeowners are like, what is a third-party inspection company? Like, I had somebody call me from this other company that's not my insurance company. How would you describe a third-party inspection company?
You know, these are words that I've learned by being in the industry for the amount of time that I have, but some people may call them glorified picture takers. Right? They come out there, their sole job is to take pictures of damages, and then they're completely out of the claim.
Yes, I don't make any decisions.
Yeah.
I'm just here to take pictures and get the information for that adjuster that will never come to your house.
And sometimes these guys will go out there, and if a contractor's there on the job, I've had this happen so many times. I'll go out there, it's a third-party adjuster, and, you know, I'll walk around with them during the inspection, and they won't mark up anything. They'll actually reverse the role and say, I'll follow you around the property. Why don't you show me what you saw?
Yeah.
And then that makes their job easy. Of course they'd want to do that. They don't have to look for damages. They're going to take pictures of everything that you saw and send that in for consideration.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's 4 eyes are always going to be better than 2. And when they do that, it's not something I necessarily agree with. I like for if they're going to send an adjuster out for them to take their own look at it. And like, let's work at this together to make sure we're not missing anything. But that does happen.
Yeah. So basically these third-party companies, they are companies, standalone companies, not the insurance company, but they have a contract with the insurance company to get them the information they need to determine if there is damage. And I think that there becomes some conflict of interest in these. My opinion of the conflict of interest is basically, if the insurance company is paying you to tell me if there's damage or not, and as an insurance company, the more damage gets approved, the less profitable they are.
Yeah.
Isn't it going to kind of push that company to be more likely to not get the information needed or not look very hard?
Yeah.
I think is the problem we run into. Now, in some situations, these are licensed adjusters.
Yeah.
And in some situations, they're not. Most of the time, I'd like to think they are licensed adjusters. But the problem is these licensed adjusters never work with a homeowner. They won't take, like, if a homeowner calls that company and says, hey, I think I have hail damage, will you come out and inspect it? They won't. They only work for the insurance companies.
Yeah.
And so you got to be careful. Don't be fooled. These third-party companies are advocates for the insurance company. The same way your contractor can be an advocate for you with the insurance company, the third-party companies are advocates for the insurance company because they want to keep getting paid to come out and do inspections.
Yeah.
So if they come out every time and it's like approved, that insurance company is going to be like, you're not really helping us here. If they say deny, the insurance company doesn't have the liability of the denial as much. So,
and these third party guys, they get paid regardless.
Yeah.
So their motive for being out there, obviously, is to get paid.
Yeah, 100%. And I think other reasons why insurance companies hire third-party companies to conduct inspection is to save them from trying to hire and train adjusters. Like, this is not an easy job. Going out, getting on, 5 to 10 roofs a day, doing these full inspections, writing up the inspection afterwards. Like, this is hard work. It's hard to do. Typically, adjusters get paid pretty well. If you're not aware of that, adjusters get paid very well. And it's a good way for them to deny claims. And it's a good way for them to not have the decision maker at the home doing the inspection.
Yeah.
I think there's pros for the insurance company. I don't see a ton of pros, if any, for any homeowners.
Right.
What do you think?
No, I mean, they oftentimes just send a third party out there because in the past, sometimes adjusters would get caught, saying the wrong thing on the property, and then they get held liable for it because they're the decision maker.
Yeah.
And, sending a third party guy out there kind of just leaves them in the safety zone to where they don't have to have the repercussion of, I got to be quiet or I can't say anything wrong. But it doesn't matter what the third party guy says out there. He's not the decision maker. So,
and most of them will tell you that when you're there. They'll be like, I don't have any say. I'll be like, do you think that's hail or not? I don't have any say in this. And that's why I think we get more and more calls from homeowners wanting us to come out and do inspections and give them estimates because they'll tell us, we had this third party company come out from the insurance company. They denied us. Now I need a contractor to come out and do an inspection for me. And so if you want to avoid having as much of that challenge, I think the best way to do that is to have a contractor there, contractor present, and have that contractor able to work with you to, go after that claim for you. So what happens after an adjuster's meeting? Garrett, what should somebody expect after a adjuster's meeting?
Yeah, so after the adjuster appointment is complete, you should expect a phone call or email, a letter of some sort stating the outcome of the inspection, whether that's an approval, a denial. You'll receive after if it's approved, you'll receive an initial payment along with that, and usually like an estimate summary of what they're paying for, which is called like a scope of work or a scope of loss.
Yeah, and it used to be that like some insurance companies, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, they would come out, the adjuster would be the one, he'd make the decision, he would write up the whole summary, he would print off the first check for the customer. And that's not the case so much anymore, right?
Not as much. No, it's a little different.
Yeah, where it's like they're going to come out, they're going to come or they're going to send somebody, then they're going to go back, then they'll make their decision, then you'll hear from them, then they'll give you a payment, give you a summary. And at that point, I think it's best to have the contractor look at the insurance summary, look it over. You shouldn't necessarily... I think this is one mistake I see homeowners make all too often. They get the insurance summary and they won't show it to the contractor.
Never makes sense.
It never makes sense.
Somebody with experience and knows how the process works, this does not help a homeowner whatsoever.
No, because I think most homeowners think, well, maybe, because I hear them tell me this, maybe I'll get to keep some of this money.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe my roof is $20,000. Insurance company paid me $20,000. Maybe I'll find a roofer to do it for $15,000. I won't have to pay my deductible and I'll get some money. What most homeowners don't realize about that situation is you'll have to turn in that invoice from your contractor. And when you turn that into the insurance company, they will only pay you what the contractor charged you. And you won't get that difference in money. It doesn't work like that. And
then what if they say, well, I can, make the invoice look like it's for the full amount?
Yeah, that's insurance fraud, felony. Not looking good. And the other thing about summaries is summaries can be confusing. They can be hard to read. It's hard to know like what's being covered, what's not. So let's talk about like what is a summary, because like we talk about it all the time. What is an insurance summary? Basically, it's a scope of what the insurance company is paying for, right? Like a detailed breakdown.
Yeah, so insurance summary is going to list in detail what was approved by your insurance company, or what are they paying for? What did they see that was damaged, that qualified for a replacement or a repair? And your insurance summary will list this out in pretty good detail.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's hard to look at to read these and really understand them. It is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
They'll show you your payment schedule and what are they paying out for each thing.
Yep.
Right. So if you get an insurance summary and you only want to do part of it, or like there's some things that they're paying out for that you're not as concerned about, it's important to know how much are they paying for those things.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one thing that that summary will break down for you.
Yep, absolutely. It'll cover depreciation, right? Recoverable depreciation, non-recoverable depreciation in some situations. Every single time you're dealing with an insurance claim, whatever contractor you choose should be a part of that insurance summary. Yeah. This shouldn't become we call it, there's two kinds of roofs people buy from us. There's a retail roof where they pay out of pocket 100%, no insurance company is paying for it. And then there's insurance roofing where insurance companies are basically paying. It's part of an insurance claim. If you have an insurance claim, that contractor should be helping you, because otherwise it may leave you in a spot where you're paying more than what the insurance company is paying you, which if you want to upgrade, you may be paying more than what the insurance company is covering. But it's in your best interest to work with that contractor and have that contractor. Every insurance company says, they print it on like the first page of every summary, please show this to your contractor before starting the work. Because they want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and nobody's getting taken advantage of.
And the majority of the time, they're going to miss something.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it's something that needs to be done or just something that was damaged that they didn't include. Regardless, you're going to pay the same amount for your deductible.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that everything that was damaged is going to be included.
Yeah. And like, this is commonly why a lot of homeowners choose us as a contractor, is because we can read that summary.
Yeah.
We can interpret it. We can determine what's being covered, what's not, who's responsible. Should the insurance company pay some more money? Is it something that's not included? Maybe do you want to upgrade your roof to have a better quality roof in the next round? You know, so many times, you know, it's the original roof on the house, right? There's so many houses that are 20, 30 years old, and the neighborhood gets hit by hail, and there was never any drip edge. There was never any ice and water shield on the eaves. Well, the insurance company is not required necessarily to pay for that if it's not covered by code in your area. So at that point, you could like upgrade your roof. But the best thing for you to do is to have the contractor evaluate that summary, which is why people call us. So that way you don't end up with any additional cost. And if you do want to upgrade, then you can choose to upgrade for an additional cost.
Yes. It's important too that your contractor is willing to explain this to you, right? As a homeowner, make sure you ask your contractor, hey, can you walk through the summary and explain like what this actually means?
Yeah.
And if it's probably a red flag if they can't.
Absolutely. 100%. So what happens if the insurance claim doesn't cover the entire roof? I know this, like, to some homeowners, this like seems surprising. Like, why would they not cover the whole roof?
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I get where they're coming from. But like, it may be due to like a lack of damage, or like only part of the roof is damaged. Let's talk about that real quick. So like, why would only part of the roof be damaged?
Well, storms are directional, and not every storm is only going to impact one side of your property. But in a directional storm, you know, straight line winds will cause damage sometimes on one side of your roof and not the other, right? If hail falls from the northwest is falling east, then whatever slope is facing that way is probably going to be way less likely to be damaged.
Yeah. Or maybe you've got like a giant tree
or coverage or something
over part of the house, and then that hail's not coming down in that area. That slope may not have gotten damaged.
Yeah.
The insurance company is not required to replace the whole roof, but they typically are going to replace it per slope. Now, just because they don't cover the entire roof, we get a lot of calls from homeowners that are like, well, they didn't cover my whole roof, they only covered part of it. And we can go out there, and sometimes a supplement could be filed to get the rest of the roof approved, or maybe there's a discontinued shingle, or for some reason there may be coverage that'll get us to the other side, but it doesn't mean it's going to get approved.
No, just because you file a claim does not mean that it's going to get approved. Just even on our behalf, you know, even if we see damage, it doesn't mean that that's what the insurance is going to see. Yeah. And sometimes you just have to be agree to disagree with the insurance company, although that's not the ending that anybody wants other than your insurance. But that does happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, you know, sometimes they're going to come out. And all too many times, unfortunately, insurance companies, we're seeing a high rate of initial denials at the first inspection. And so then what we need to do is we need to file for a re-inspection. Right. Garrett, when's a good time to file for a re-inspection from the insurance company?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different instances. One is, you know, if your trusted contractor feels that there's damage it's not being covered, right? If they went and did their inspection and they got damage on all four, they've got photos and proof and documentation, and then the adjuster comes out and denies it, or it ends up getting denied initially, it may be a good idea to just have a reinspection done.
Absolutely. And this doesn't matter. Like, I've seen this where, like, I'll go out, I'll do an inspection report, I'll make an estimate. We have an adjuster come out and we just agree to disagree with that adjuster. Maybe they have less experience or whatever. Then I will have them still have a second adjuster come out. Like, we just call, we have them ask for the supervisor, and then we just kind of demand, like, look, like, we don't feel like that adjuster is seeing the same stuff. Here's our report. We want you to come back out.
Yeah.
And in some instances with insurance companies, we have noticed the rate of approval on second inspections is rather high, which is interesting. But it's become part of the game, because I think what the insurance companies figured out is, look, if we tell somebody no, they'll give up. Whether it's the contractor, the homeowner, if we tell them no, they may not come back even if there is damage.
Yeah.
What we've learned is we should probably do a second inspection if we think that it's a good solid storm, good hail damage there, and we can get a higher rate of approval at the second one.
If supplements are sent in, a lot of times, if it's a big list of things that they missed, your insurance company will actually request a reinspection themselves.
Yeah. I think we see that commonly when, like, a homeowner files the claim with no contractor.
Yeah,
they get approved for the roof, but it's missing like a lot of things in it.
Yeah.
And then we come back and we say, hey, so we need all of this stuff. We send in our report, send in the estimate. And they go, well, let's come out and look at it again.
Double check.
Let's double check it. Yeah. So I think that's a common time. Yeah, I think that reinspection is a common part of this. I think typically you're not going to want to go past 2. I think there may be very rare occasions that's needed. So the next thing is, like, if your insurance company does deny you, when could it be important for you to replace the roof anyways? Because sometimes people are like, I got denied, now I'm not going to do anything. Why might it be important sometimes for them to still want to replace the roof?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they may have damage, but it's old, right? So it's past that 2-year time span for them to file a claim and get it approved. The damage could have occurred, 4 or 5 years ago. And it's just now, like, really showing up to where it's noticeable. And in that case, you're still going to want to get it replaced, right? Your insurance company's not going to pay for that because it's past the time frame, but it's going to lead to further problems if not replaced.
Yeah, and most now insurance companies go out and they find some old damage like that, then they'll actually stop continued coverage on the roof because now you've got this old roof that needs to be replaced.
Some people are also in positions where they know they're approaching the time to need a new roof, so that want to file a claim and just say, let's see what happens. Right? I know we had a storm here. Let's file a claim and just see if we can get insurance to approve it or not.
Yeah.
That's pretty common. And in that instance, that's obvious. If it gets denied, you were already aware that your roof was aging and it's getting towards the end of its lifespan. It's about time to replace it.
Yeah, we had one recently where the insurance company sent a letter to somebody and they said, we're going to stop coverage in April of next year. So we went out, we gave them a quote on the roof. And then when they called their insurance agent to say, hey, these policies are getting pretty expensive, the agent said, well, why don't you file a claim? Maybe we can get it approved. And we went out and re-inspected it, and there was not really any damage.
Nothing there.
When a roof gets old, sometimes it's better to replace it.
Yeah.
I think other times is like if you have active leaks, if you got an active leak and you have an older roof, it's not repairable, then like it just sometimes becomes time, even if you have a denial, you could lose coverage on your roof. If it's not in good shape, sometimes I know some people don't want to hear this, but like roofs get old and they need to be replaced from time
Yeah.
to time, even if the insurance company is not the one paying for it.
Absolutely.
So, you know, we get a lot of calls from homeowners that get denied and they're like, hey, can you get me approved? And, you know, we do our best sometimes to get a reinspection and sometimes we can get them approved. But there's times where somebody just needs a new roof. And it's better to get that new roof and not end up having, you know, other interior damage or lack of insurance coverage. You know, and then you just get a new roof. You get peace of mind. You know, you've got a roof over your head. It's not going to leak and cause any other damage, right?
Right. And then you're set up. Right. You got coverage, you got insurance. If it's an act of God, it's through insurance. You got warranties and a new roof through the contractor that you chose, hopefully. And, you know, you should be covered in all directions in that.
Yeah, sometimes there's premium discounts if you get like a class 4 impact rated shingle.
Right, yeah.
So like there's other ways that you can, you know, save yourself a little money by getting a new roof. What is an insurance supplement? We've talked about supplements a little bit. What's an insurance supplement, Garrett? You deal with these.
Yeah, every so often. Yeah. It's insurance supplement is the negotiation process with your adjuster. A supplement is if your insurance missed damages or there's something that they're not including on that insurance summary. The supplement is what you send in. It includes pictures, an estimate, and an explanation of what they're missing as a request for them to take into consideration for the replacement of it.
How often are supplements required in insurance claims?
Almost every time. I mean, 99% of the time, there's supplementing. If you want to do it right, there's supplementing involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is why you got to find a contractor you can trust to make sure
Absolutely.
you can get it figured out. Because otherwise, contractor just takes it, they put on a subpar roof. So it's important that they, you know, supplement it properly.
Yeah. And sometimes you'll get into a project too, and other things will come up. Maybe the insurance paid for everything right away, and then you started the project and you tore into it, and then now there's rotten decking, or there's some rotten trim, or some or
delaminated decking, or it's not up to code.
Right. And then along those lines, it's well, we did originally agree with the insurance, but now that we're in the middle of the project and there's other problems, the supplement will be needed on the back end.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And we get a lot of calls from homeowners anyways. They're just like, hey, we didn't get enough. This isn't going to pay for a roof. How do we get there? And we can come in and help them supplement that. So we've covered a lot on like what happens with an insurance claim. Like, how do you know when it's time to actually get the roof installed during the claim process?
Well, this is why good communication is important, right? Your contractor should let you know that, hey, we've gotten everything we can out of the insurance, or we've finally came to an agreement with what's damaged and what needs paid out for, or the amount. It's whenever you guys agree upon the scope of loss or the scope of work to be done, is usually that's generally the time when things start to move into production.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's like, as much as we'd like insurance companies to cover everything, sometimes they don't want to cover all the additional costs. And so sometimes we got to figure out like, where's the walk away point? Where's the break even? We're going to do our best for somebody, but at some point
you can only push so much.
Yeah, 100%. So we're talking about replacing roofs, class 4 impact rated shingles. Basically a class 4 impact rated shingle is a shingle that is impact resistant. It's the highest level of impact resistance there is. I think it's like up to 2-inch hail. What are the advantages that people are seeing out of getting these class 4 impact rated shingles? Because we're seeing them more and more, and we get people finally requesting them. Like, why is that?
Well, one is, a premium discount on your insurance. Now, not every insurance company is offering that, but a lot of them are offering premium discounts. So what you're paying for your insurance premium, because you have a more resistant shingle up there, your insurance is charging you a little less for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've talked to many homeowners that we do work for, and I say, hey, let me know if you get a discount. And almost every single one of them are getting premium discounts. I think on top of that, like, he's less likely to have damage.
Yeah, it's a higher quality shingle.
Yeah, higher quality shingle. We're going to have hail here in central Indiana. Like, it's just a matter of where and when it's going to happen. And so what I like to encourage homeowners to think about, because the cost of the upgrade, 5 years ago when they first started really becoming like available on the market, it was a fairly big increase. Well, now that gap has closed, and it's like, how much is your deductible? What's it worth to you to not have to go through this claim process again?
Right.
Because sometimes just the time from a homeowner to get contractors to give you estimates, choose a contractor, do an adjuster's appointment meeting, go through the supplement process, actually get the roof done, that can take an immense amount of time. So it's like, what's your time worth? And what if you didn't have to go through that again? And what if you didn't have to pay your deductible and you can get a premium discount through this whole way?
Yeah.
Is it worth an extra couple $1,000s to upgrade your shingle on a $20,000 roof? Is it worth 10% more? I think that's what homeowners got to decide.
Yeah.
What we're finding is a lot of our customers are upgrading to Class 4 impact rated shingles.
It's become really common.
Very common. And it helps them not have to deal with future claims. They have a more hail impact resistant roof, and it gives them that peace of mind that they have a good quality roof over their head.
Yep.
So now we've put on a new roof. What should a final inspection for a roof look like once it's completed? Like, what should the contractor be doing? What's involved with this?
Well, you as a homeowner should be involved, right? To be able to walk around and make sure that we delivered on what we promised.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. The contractor should be conducting a final inspection after installing or doing any project on your house. I think it's really important to go around and just ensure that things were completed.
Yeah.
Right. They were done correctly. Nothing sticks out. And if you do it correctly and you have people do an inspection once a year, things that pop up are going to get caught. So it's just an ensuring that the job was done correctly, that you can walk away feeling comfortable that everything's cleaned up, everything's done, up to code, how it should have been done. And it also helps close out that claim.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to get those final pictures for the final invoice, show that all those last parts and pieces were installed, all the materials were done properly. And then once that's done, claim closes out, homeowner gets a final check, they pay the contractor, everything's done. Should they update their insurance agent that they got a new roof at this point?
It would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to extend your coverage, right? They're going to have updated coverage on it. If you did end up using a Class 4 impact rated shingle, it could give you a discount on your premium. There's a lot of benefits, and it's a step you don't want to miss.
Yeah. And I think that because it's really common that your agent can't file your insurance claim for you. So you file a claim, it gets approved, you get a new roof. If you don't notify your agent, he doesn't necessarily know.
Yeah.
And now your policy has a roof on it that is older than what it is. So it is very important to update that agent. And then if you do a Class 4 impact rated shingle, this could be lower your premiums.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think it's great to update the agent and let them know. And can definitely help you out, save you some money. Well, Garrett, appreciate you taking the time to share this information with our customers here and with anybody interested in the information. Here at UHQ Construction, we stand for unrushed, honest quality. We're going to take our time. We're going to be honest and give you a quality project. So if you have any type of insurance claim, you think you may have storm damage, you're fighting the insurance company for approval, or you just need a new roof or siding or windows or gutters, give us a call, 317-884-3140. We don't do any high pressure sales. We'll take our time through the sales process, get you the information you need, be honest with you, and give you a quality job. Check us out online. Check out our YouTube channel. Check out our website, www.unrushedhonestquality.com. Check out our Google reviews. We are, your premier contractor here in Central Indiana that you can trust and make sure that we do a good job for you. So thank you for taking the time to watch this. We really appreciate that. And, hopefully there's no hail over your house and you don't have to worry about filing an insurance claim. But if you do, give us a call. We'll help you with the process.